It was 2:47 a.m. when the security guard, a man named David, walked out of frame on camera 4. He'd heard a noise, a woman humming, coming from the abandoned food court. He went to check it out, forgetting his radio on the desk. 20 minutes passed on the monitors. The grainy black and white footage showed nothing but empty hallways and dead escalators. David didn't come back. Then, at 3:08 a.m., camera 4 flickered. A figure walked into frame. It was David. Same gray uniform, same tired walk. But as he got closer to the security office door, he stopped. He tilted his head, like a dog hearing a whistle only it could hear. Then he smiled. It wasn't a relieved smile. It was too wide. It lasted too long. He reached for the door handle. When the figure calling itself David opened the door and walked into the security office, the real David was still sitting right there, in front of the monitors. The real David spun in his chair, his coffee cup shattering on the floor. He stared at the figure now standing just inside his doorway. It was him. Every detail. Perfect. The same tired eyes, the same 5 o'clock shadow. The thing looked at David, then slowly turned its head to look at the bank of monitors on the wall. "Who the hell are you?" David asked. The thing didn't answer. It just pointed at the main screen. David followed its gaze. On the monitor, he could see the live feed of the office they were standing in. He saw himself cowering by his desk. He saw the thing standing by the door. And then, on the screen, the thing raised its hand and waved. A slow, deliberate wave. David felt his blood turn to ice. He hadn't seen it move, but on the screen, the wave was already over. David scrambled for the door, but the thing was faster. It moved unnaturally, sliding in front of him, blocking the exit. It leaned in close, its face inches from David's. Its breath was cold and smelled like the air from a basement that's been sealed for 100 years. It opened its mouth and whispered, but the voice wasn't its own. It was David's own voice, but thin, distant, like an echo from a well. "Let me in," it whispered. The lights in the office flickered wildly, buzzing with static. The monitors screeched with static. The lights exploded in a shower of sparks, plunging the room into darkness, lit only by the sickly glow of the monitors. David shoved the thing with all his strength. It felt like pushing against a curtain of cold, dead air. He stumbled through the doorway and into the main corridor of the mall. He ran, past the darkened storefronts, past the dead escalators. He just needed to get to the main exit. He rounded a corner and stopped dead. There, standing under a single flickering light, was the thing again. It was just waiting for him. "No, no, no," David whispered in terror. He turned and ran the other way, down into the mall's lower level, the basement. It was even darker here, the air thick with dust and the smell of mold. He could hear it behind him, not running, but walking. Slow, steady steps. It knew it didn't need to rush. There was no way out. David found an old service door, a heavy metal thing, and threw himself against it. The lock clicked shut. He leaned against it, his chest heaving. He'd lost it. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, from the other side of the door, a soft tapping. Tap, tap, tap. It was followed by a whisper right on the other side of the metal. "It's cold out here, Dave. Let me in," the voice whispered through the door. The tapping stopped, and a nerving, complete silence followed. David didn't move. He barely breathed. Minutes passed, maybe an hour. Finally, he gathered the courage to look through the small wire-reinforced window in the door. The corridor was empty. It was gone. Shaking, he made his way back upstairs.
The sun was starting to rise, casting a weak gray light through the mall's skylights. He stumbled back into the security office. It was a wreck. The monitors were all dead, except for one, camera 4. On the screen, he could see the main corridor. It was empty. But then he noticed the timestamp. It wasn't showing the current time. It was showing 2:47 a.m. It was showing the moment he had walked out of frame. He watched himself on the old recording, disappearing from view. The corridor remained empty for 20 minutes. Then, just as he had seen it happen, the figure walked into frame. He watched it tilt its head. He watched it smile, and he watched it walk toward the office door. The door right behind him. He spun around. It was empty. He turned back to the monitor. On the screen, the thing had just opened the office door. A cold draft touched the back of his neck. He didn't turn around. He just stared at the monitor. On the screen, he saw his own terrified face looking back at him, and standing just behind his chair, a dark man-shaped shadow leaning down. Its mouth was next to his ear. On the monitor, the shadow whispered something to the frozen image of David. The real David felt the words, not with his ears, but inside his skull, a cold, crawling feeling. "You were never going to leave," the shadow whispered. The monitor screen went black with a final pulse of electricity. Silence. When the new shift manager arrived that morning, the office was empty. David's coffee mug was in pieces on the floor. His chair was spinning slowly in the stale air, and on the main monitor, which was now working perfectly, was a single live feed from camera 4. It showed a man in a gray security uniform standing perfectly still in the abandoned food court. It was David. He wasn't moving. He was just staring up at the camera, and he was smiling. The new manager called his name into the radio. No response. He just kept smiling that too wide smile, his chest not moving, his eyes not blinking. The police reviewed the footage. They saw David leave the office at 2:47 a.m. They saw him return at 3:08 a.m. They saw him sit at the desk, and they watched him sit there, perfectly still, for the rest of the night. They concluded he never left the building. They never saw the other figure on the tape. They never saw the shadow lean in to whisper. The cameras only ever saw David. If you're enjoying these stories so far, consider liking and subscribing. More chilling tales are waiting for you. And let me know in the comments what you think happened to David. Was it an entity, a ghost, or something else entirely? But sometimes, late one night, when the feed from the mall glitches for just a single frame, you can see him. Not in the food court anymore. He's somewhere else now. He's in the security office. He's sitting in the chair, and he's waiting for the next guard to arrive so he can finally let him in.